Hello and welcome to the second part of a 4-part series on servicing the Genoa Furler on an Amel Super Maramoo. As I always like to remind everyone, I'm not an expert on this, and if you are an expert or an old salty sea dog with some insights into this job, then leave them in the comments below the video. As you saw in part 1, we had to reroute from the north of Australia down to Brisbane to avoid the cyclone season. So we used those 4 months as a bit of a maintenance stopover on the Brisbane River. While anchored in the Brisbane River, we managed to take off the furler, but we also managed to almost lose the forestay and the foil overboard. But luckily we saved them in time. In this video, I'll be stripping down the furler mechanism that we removed without hopefully losing anything overboard. There is accompanying PDF with these videos if you need it, which you can find in our Patreon shop, the link of which will be in the description below the video. So the first thing to come out of the mechanism was 2 half-round carbon bushings which were inserted in the top of the drum. Now this is to protect the forestay when it revolves. They are loose, so be careful not to lose them when you take the mechanism off. Now the motor looked in a really bad way, and I'm guessing this was because there was a gasket missing on the housing of the motor which was letting salt water and moisture in. So the first job was to remove it and see how bad the damage really was. Definitely some damage here. I'm not even sure what these connectors are. Everything was there and intact, it was just all covered in rust. This is what it should look like. So up against the timeline and the fact that it was probably beyond my pay grade to bring this motor back from the brink of death, I farmed it out to Chris Moore of Braithwaite Electrics in Brisbane to see if he could rescue it. So while Chris was doing a full strip down of the motor, I turned my attention to the gearbox. So I can't get the drum off the furler. I've tried penetrating oil, I've tried hot water to try and decalcify it a bit, and I've even tried suspending it off a beam and banging it with a rubber mallet. So I'm going to have to fashion some separators myself. Luckily I've got some stainless steel threaded rod, I think it's 10mm. I'm going to cut some 16mm bits off it and then put some nuts on it and then just slowly crank them open on 4 corners, and hopefully that would just pop the seal and then I can slide it off. Top tip this morning, don't grind any small bits of metal when you're next to big gaps in the concrete. The reason I've come ashore is because using a grinder on the boat is fine, but all of the metal shards find a way into all of the nooks and crannies, and then when it gets salt water on it, the rust streaks come off it and it just looks terrible. So today's been mainly fabricating tools to try and get this furler apart. One of the best things I did was bring some M10 stainless steel rod on the boat with me, and it's been invaluable, and it's particularly for this job. I made 4 16mm lengths with some nuts on to prise off the drum, and now I'm using the remainder of that rod. I put a lock nut on the bottom and a washer and another on top to act as a kind of ram to knock the bottom plate off. I had to grind down the washer a little bit to make it fit inside, but it's worked a treat. Copious amounts of penetrating oil though, and it's taken me about an hour, but it's come out eventually. So this is day 2 of dismantling the furler. I've got the drum off and the shaft from the middle and the end pieces, obviously, well, one of the end pieces. That black plastic ring, it's part of a much bigger bottom housing bit, which I'm struggling to get off now. So I've got as far as I can with sort of screwdrivers and blunt chisels and everything else, and now I'm trying to fashion a kind of wedge to try and get it on there and pop it up. And now a plug for the Patreon platform where I mentioned that PDF earlier.
Have you ever dreamt of a lifestyle like this? Well, here's some really exciting news for you. You can have access to comprehensive guidance crafted by us, the Renker and Woody, seasoned world cruisers, yachting instructors and parents. We've taught thousands of people how to sail, and as a cruising family, we've sailed tens of thousands of miles across the world's oceans.
Now you can access that knowledge from our Patreon platform. So, if you want to shift your life from traditional school and work towards boat schooling, remote working, minimalist living, and a remarkable life experience, then find out how by visiting www.mothershipadrift.com or click on the links in the description below. See you out there.
So do check out our Patreon platform. We're uploading loads of useful resources up there on a weekly basis for anyone who's trying to escape the rat race. Bad news is I couldn't actually get the top off. Tried to revert back to my 2 nut solution on a bit of cut off rod. As soon as I put it in the insert, the nuts were tight up against the inside of the drum, so they couldn't actually turn around. Found auto shop, super cheap auto, which is about an hour's walk from here on the other side of the river. So I actually went and got one of these disc brake caliper piston spreader to insert into the gap and then open up the gap between the top and the body. However, when I got back, I found out that the actual thickness was too thick to get into the gap. Luckily somebody lent me their workbench, so I ground it down, which when put together is about 6mm, so that fits in just on the gap, and then I can rotate that, put it in, open it up, put it in, open it up. So if you find these videos useful and you're the type of person who likes to return a favour, you can buy me a beer by hitting the super thanks button below the video. I managed to break one of my impact driver heads, as you can see, give it a spray with some MX3 penetrating spray overnight, and now I'm going to try and give it another try. That seems to have done the trick. So I just cleaned the gears with a bit of diesel, and to be honest, it's come up really well. I mean, considering that's nearly 25 years old, it's pretty good nick. I was dreading the fact that might have been a problem. There is a guy in France who actually produces these just for Amel owners, because the original guy who used to make them is now kind of well past retirement. And I'd just like to add my absolute gratitude to Jeremy Lajotte in France for, first of all, helping me identify all the parts and helping with the French translation on the drawings. It's about €600. This one has been particularly tricky. It wasn't that it was stuck in there. I mean, once I got the bolts out, there was nothing physically holding it in. It was just the fact that the grease, I think, was holding it in. So this bit of pipe I found in a skip in Spain, and it was just the right size for those lip seals in for the prop shaft. I mean, it's just a bit of off-cut pipe, but it's one of the handiest tools I'm actually carrying on board. So having spent 2 days trying to get this last bearing out, I had to eventually give up and take it to a machine shop and get it pressed out. It's now clear, and luckily, as far as I can tell anyway, there is no cracking to the casing. The bearing itself didn't come off too well. And also I pressed out the bronze inner from this bit. It looks like there's obviously been some sort of galvanic reaction there somehow. I'm not sure whether it's from the bronze or the stainless steel screws in there that have obviously been cut off and re-drilled by a previous owner. I think it's still salvageable. It just needs a good clean up really. Maybe I'll put some Sikaflex or Duralac in that to try and give it a bit of a barrier. There's the big lip seal that came out as well. Still got the worm gear to take out as well. Came up really easy. It was just hanging in there. So obviously needs a bit of a clean up. I'd also like to thank Chris Moore again for using his specialised tool for removing the racers of the tapered bearings and taking them out of the gearbox housing. So that was it, a fully stripped down gearbox. Now all I had to do was find the replacement parts and put it all back together again. And in the next video you'll see how I did this. So if you're an expert or an old salty sea dog with some insights into this matter, then I would love to hear those in the comments below. That's it, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out our other sailing and travel channel, Mothership Adrift. Thanks in particular to our patrons who make all things possible. If you want to become a patron, just follow the links in the description below. You can also check out our merch store with mugs and t-shirts with our Mothership branding.